It's the dead of winter in Montana right now, and we're out looking for bighorn sheep on their winter range. And I'm right on a road. Michael and I have just been driving up and down this road, glassing up sheep. We've seen them frequent, just walking right on the road. We've seen them just uphill of the road, and they're just all down low in the sagebrush right now, just chilling out in plain view, which is crazy to me because I had this bighorn sheep tag this year, and in the summer and through all of hunting season, they are extremely difficult to find. To have the contradiction of them being incredibly visible, so easy to find right now, it's just kind of crazy to me. It's really cool. I love coming down and looking at these sheep on the winter range, but man, it is a different world in the summer. Unfortunately, for the hunt portion of this video, it's all photos because it's all wilderness up here, and we cannot get film permits in designated wilderness. You're still allowed to take photos, and that's all right. It was one of the most incredible hunts that I've ever gone on. And not just the hunt, just the entire scouting. All summer we were up there almost every weekend, mostly Kara and I, and we had friends come along on various trips, but just an absolutely incredible place looking for these sheep that are so hard to find. I kind of have a bit of a history with this sheep herd. I used to work a lot of wildlife tech jobs, and one of the jobs that I had for a season was chasing sheep and goats around in the mountains.
I worked for graduate students Jesse DeVoe and Carson Butler under Professor Bob Garrett. I learned a tremendous amount from these guys. They opened my eyes to the world of wildlife research, asking hard questions and trying to answer them, such as what factors trigger pneumonia die-offs in sheep herds? Do non-native mountain goats affect bighorn sheep? What exactly is bighorn sheep habitat, and why aren't they using all of it? We spent the summer and fall in the high country glassing and documenting bighorn sheep and mountain goats. We perched up on ridges, able to see for miles and watch things unfold that very few people ever get to see. That summer sent me on a life path shaping what I care about and how I live my life. Since that summer, the majority of my weekends have been spent up in the high country, exploring new areas. Whether it's chasing bugling elk with a bow or finding a cutthroat trout in a mountain lake, I'm always seeking to find what is at the tops of the mountains. Pursuing my graduate degree in science and natural history filmmaking, I continued to learn about bighorns, making them the focus of several of my student film projects. I kept in touch with Montana State researchers and volunteered to help with projects as much as possible. I tagged along and filmed as many captures as they would let me attend. Drop netting, ground darting, and aerial net gunning. I worked on projects in the Gros Ventre Mountains, Madison, Gallatin, Tendoy, Observer Beartooth, Rocky Mountain Front, and Missouri River Breaks. Bighorns used to occupy way more of the habitat than they do now. Accounts from early explorers note the presence of sheep all over the state. They got wiped out for a number of reasons, market hunting and disease being two of the biggest factors. Like many of our wildlife species, we did a pretty good job bringing them back from the brink by translocating them in from other areas. But the recovery has not been as successful as species like deer or elk. Bighorns continue to struggle to build back robust populations. The biggest thing holding them back now is disease. They get sick and die easily, primarily through pneumonia. A tremendous amount of effort and money have gone into trying to understand how the pathogens get into the populations and what factors will trigger an outbreak. And while researchers have learned a lot, they haven't been able to stop the die-offs. So now we have a decent amount of sheep in the state, but at a fraction of what they once were. So drawing a tag to hunt one is extremely rare. This was my 23rd year applying, and I got very lucky to draw this tag. If you asked me to pick one hunt above all else, it would be hunting sheep in the mountains. As soon as I found out that I drew, I was driving to the unit to see if some of the rams were still on the winter range. We had a really rough winter, and the snow is sticking around late into the spring. Unfortunately, this meant that a lot of mature rams died. But I did still find several rams that made it through. And after talking to the biologist, the spring count showed that enough 3/4 curl rams survived to justify keeping the permit quota the same. This sheep tag ended up consuming me. It's all that I could think about. I spent just about every weekend scouting the unit that I possibly could. As the snow started to melt, I tried to figure out their routes as they moved up the mountain. On those early spring trips, I could not find a single ram. But rather than frustrate me, it just made me more excited. Excited for the challenge of finding a mature ram in a truly wild landscape. I met with the biologist and I met with several previous tag holders, and the list of spots that I wanted to check out continued to grow. Throughout the summer, we tried to go to a different spot every weekend. And eventually, we started to find rams, all of which were deep into the wilderness. Kara was with me most of the time, but when she couldn't make it, I would try to find friends to go with, or quite a few times, I'd just go by myself. Most of our access was on foot, but occasionally we had friends with horses, or we would get in as far as we could on an ATV trail, which was fun because then we got to take my dad along with us. One really intriguing thing about this sheep population is that they spread out over a massive area during the summer months. But when they return to their winter range, they're mostly concentrated into one zone. And when they're wintering together in one spot and pneumonia comes in, the entire herd is more susceptible. You kind of have all of your eggs in the same basket. This is likely the result from when sheep were translocated back. This is the area that they were dropped off. It's what they know. They're unaware of the fact that there is great winter range available in many other parts of the mountain range. In other parts of Montana and Wyoming, large metapopulations of bighorn exist that never got wiped out. They winter in smaller groups in multiple different areas, and they've been able to better survive disease events. With this in mind, managers and researchers hatched a plan to see if they could convince sheep to relearn more of the mountain range.
This kind of an experiment that FWP and MSU are doing, it's kind of a neat story, I think. The valley has winter ranges for bighorn sheep all up and down it, but only 2 winter ranges are currently occupied. So there's a lot of habitat potential out there for the sheep. So getting sheep from this winter range, where they've got a very strong and high population, and moving them to help them rediscover some of these historic winter ranges can mean more sheep on the mountain, can mean better disease resistance, can mean better genetics, more tags for hunters.
We're gonna try to drop on about 20. It's an 80-foot net. It weighs 600 pounds. We want the net to do the job of getting most of the animals on the ground. What you want to do is blindfold your animal. The quicker we can blindfold them, the quicker they calm down, the better it is for them. Once you have it blindfolded and the animal's in a position that's safe, then you want to hobble it up. Then you can lift up the net, work it over your animal, and put it on a stretcher and carry it to one of the handling places.
It's been almost 10 years since the first transplant, and it's pretty cool to see how it's been working out. While some of the sheep did find their way back to where they started, more and more began to winter up to the north, more evenly spreading out wintering animals. Also, with having GPS collars along with the ear tags on sheep, FWP was able to find out that 2 individuals moved even further north into another mountain range, establishing new home ranges with another population of sheep. After seeing these results, it provides hope that managers could speed up the process of wild sheep relearning their historic ranges. This same type of action could be applied to multiple winter ranges still within the same mountain range. There is a ton of habitat that is currently not used by any sheep. One of my friends actually did his master's project looking into the available habitat within this mountain range. His model suggested that the range could support up to 1,600 animals, despite the population currently being a little under 200 sheep. It would be pretty cool to see more of this range occupied. It would definitely allow for more tags and more opportunity for people to get out and chase sheep. By the time hunting season started, I had spent 30 days in the unit scouting. It was an absolutely incredible experience. We hiked nearly every trail you could, spent a ton of time off trail, and drove any open ATV trail. We also went a couple weekends in with some friends who had horses. We tried anything and everything to get eyes on as much sheep habitat as possible. Finally, the season came, and I headed in with a week's worth of food where we had seen the biggest ram scouting. I had not seen him for a couple of weeks, but I wanted to see if I could turn him back up. While this particular ram was cool, I was not dead set on finding him. I knew 2 other tag holders knew about him as well, and I had no desire to get in a competition over a sheep. Mostly, I set the goal of killing a mature ram in the Alpine. I'm likely only going to get to kill 1 bighorn in my life, and I'd way rather shoot an okay ram at the top of the mountain than a giant ram next to the road. Also, this unit is just not known for producing big rams, so regardless, even if I shoot the biggest one in the unit, it's still not that big compared to other areas. After a few days, not only was I unable to locate the big ram, I could not find any ram. I covered a lot of ground, both hiking and glassing. A few days into the season, I talked to another tag holder and his friend. They had found the band of rams that the big one had been with in the summer, but the big ram was nowhere to be seen, and the hunter ended up killing the second biggest one, which was also a great ram. He told me that there was another ram still with them and where they were at, which was awful generous of him. But instead of going over there, I left. I backpacked out and left the area. It just wasn't the experience that I wanted, knowing that I didn't find the rams myself. I went back to town, restocked food, and headed back into a different part of the range. While scouting, we had seen a couple of rams that I'd be very happy with in this area, and it's just a super cool spot that's a long ways in. I got up top and set up camp. Unfortunately, the clouds were low and you couldn't see much of anything. The next morning, it was even worse, with almost zero visibility. I hiked around but could never find a hole in the clouds, so I was back to the tent to hope for a break the next day. The next morning, again, no visibility, but at least I knew Kara and Kyler were going to pack in and join me that afternoon. Mid-morning, the clouds finally lifted, and within 15 minutes of having visibility, I spotted a ram. And it was one that I had seen in the summer and would be more than happy with. Kara and Kyler were hiking in at this point, but still a few hours out. And given my lack of visibility the previous few days, I decided to go on the stalk while I had the chance. I had to descend a ways down the valley and climb back up an avalanche chute to get above the ram. I moved in close to where I had last seen him and quickly spotted 2 smaller rams. At this point, I was less than 300 yards from where I had last seen him, and then the 2 smaller rams were out at 600. I sat down and set up, hoping that at some point he would walk into my field of view. I stayed put for almost 6 hours and never saw him, but I had heard some rocks rolling down below me, so I figured he might be down there. As it started to get dark, I decided to slowly move over to see if I could see him below me. I traversed across the slope, exposing more and more ground below. As I stepped into a scree slope, I caught a glimpse of him. We both saw each other at the same time. It was 150 yards. I sat down, quickly confirmed it was him, and took the shot. There was definitely a wave of emotions killing that ram. It was a culmination of not only 36 days I spent that season, but a culmination of spending years being fascinated by bighorn sheep and seeing where they would take me. To have this ram down in the Alpine, 12 miles away from the truck, is a crazy feeling. There is a little bit of sadness seeing an animal that you've idolized for years dead in front of you, but that sadness is very much overcome by a feeling of accomplishment. I respect the hell out of these animals. To see what these species have endured over the years, and also what an individual endures on a daily basis. These sheep live in gnarly places and survive a gauntlet of things trying to kill them. Kara and Kyler had got to camp and they had been staging about a mile away from where I shot the sheep. They were able to reach me in the ram right at last light. It was really cool to have Kara there for this moment. She had been with me the majority of the scouting trips. We had backpacked and climbed a ridiculous amount throughout the summer. And also I was very happy to have their help to cut up and pack out the ram. We had 3 miles back to camp, arriving back very late into the night. The next morning we slept in a bit and woke up to an absolutely beautiful day. I was exhausted, but I don't think I came down from the high of the hunt the entire 9 miles back down to the truck. I felt a little bad because Kara and Kyler had packed in another week's worth of food for all of us, so it was a little heavy on the pack out. We weighed all of our packs after getting back, and all 3 packs tipped the scales at over 100 pounds, which, as tiny as Kara is, just blows my mind that she can do that, and with a smile on her face. This hunt felt in no way like it was the end of my fascination with bighorns. I think I'm even more excited about the prospect of chasing them, learning about them, and just everything sheep. I still get excited to scout for them even if no one I know has a permit. Managers are hopeful to have more in-mountain translocations of sheep in the future, in an attempt to get them to relearn more of their available habitat. It's a strategy that has already shown significant promise, and moving them into different areas can very likely result in a much bigger metapopulation that is more resilient to disease events. The result would be more sheep in more places, meaning more sheep tags available to hunters. It's easy to become pessimistic about the future of bighorns with all the problems that they face, but I truly believe that these in-mountain translocations can be a valuable tool to create more resilient sheep populations. I know that in the future, I will continue to learn and volunteer for sheep conservation projects, and tag along on as many sheep hunts as possible.